Hi everyone, welcome in or welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Angie Norris, and today I'm going to be doing a video about my January TBR list. So I did a video back in December, right after Christmas, about my 2025 TBR list. And if you watch that one, you know that I had a physical TBR list on my personal shelves of about 31, I think it was 31 or 32 books. And I did a video where I chose, I think it was 8 of them, and I read a chapter to determine if they were going to stay on the TBR list or stay off. And I was able to eliminate, I think it was, I don't remember, 3 out of 8. So anyway, what I did after that was I went back and took, so what was there? 4, 11. There was 29. So there were 29 books. And what I did with those 29 books, knowing that that TBR list was probably going to grow because I knew I was going to buy more books, but that's what I had sitting in front of me on my shelf in my bedroom on my bookshelf by my bed, and they stare at me. So I took those 29 books and I divided them, first of all, by genre. And so here's what I ended up with. I had 4 dystopian, I had 7 historical fiction, I had 6 romance, which that surprised me because I will read a romance, but I'm really a historical fiction mystery person. So that I had 6 romance, that kind of surprised me. I had 8 mystery, I had 2 nonfiction, and I had 2 more contemporary type fiction. And so I separated them into category. And then I went back and went to the Goodreads site. Even though personally I prefer Fable, Goodreads has more longer historical data of ratings. So I went to the Goodreads site and I included their Goodreads ranking. So here's kind of how I chose my January through December TBR list, so to speak. I decided that initially I would put 3 books on each month's TBR from January through September-ish. October, and then I put one on December because it was just a Christmas book. So I physically put 3 books on each month, at least through the end of September into October. And we're going from there. So what I did was I tried to pull from a different category. And to be honest with you, I kind of did it by how long it had been on my TBR list and what the rating was. So for the month of January, I started out with 3. And the reason I only put 3 from this initial list is because I knew that I'm in 2 book clubs. I cannot talk today. And that I was going to add at least 2 more books to that. One is a book club that I run or I facilitate in my private Facebook group called Angie's Adventures. And it's an online book club. So I knew I would be reading a book from that. And then I also participate in a book club, an online book club on the Discord app, which is a group of fellow whatnot buyers and sellers. And so I knew that I would add to the 3 that I placed in every month, at least 2 more each month. So that would be a total of 5. And I felt comfortable with reading 5 books a month. There are times that I have read more than that. But I didn't want to, you know, put an expectation that I would read 8 every month when I might not. So in January, the 3 that I chose from the existing book stack of 29 was, I went ahead and pulled one of my nonfictions. This is a book that I purchased. I actually, it was sold out on Amazon. I actually finally got it like in November, the 1st of November, but it was published in September, and then it was sold out on Amazon. But this is a nonfiction book that I had been wanting to read, and it kind of got put to the side because I was reading more seasonal reads in November and December. But this is called Blind Spots, and then the subtitle says, When Medicine Gets It Wrong and What It Means for Our Health. And I had read about this author, and this book came highly recommended to me. I am a breast cancer survivor, and I love to read information about health, and that anything that has to do with health, I'm a junkie. I like to be knowledgeable, and I love to absorb information. So I really wanted to read this book. So this was number 1 on my list for January. It was the first book I was going to read in January, nonfiction. It actually just, so you guys know, well, I didn't write down the rating, or yes, I did. Hold on. It actually has a 4.52 rating on Goodreads. And I can tell you that I have already read it. Today is January the 8th, and I actually finished it last night, and I have given it a 5-star rating. Highly, highly recommend this book. If you like to read nonfiction or any information about your health, you will enjoy this book. But that was my first book on my TBR for January. The second book is a mystery book by James Patterson. And this book has been out for a while. In fact, when was it published, you ask? You probably didn't ask. 1995. This book is 30 years old. And James Patterson has been around, and you know, a lot of people discount and don't read James Patterson. He's one of those you either love or you hate. But I wanted to read this book because it is, part of the book is set in North Carolina. And I live in North Carolina, and so I've had it for a while. It's been sitting on my shelf, and I moved it up to the January TBR list. And it actually had a rating on Goodreads of 4.0 even. 4-star rating. All right, third book on my TBR list, and this one made the list because it's in a series, and I'm reading this series in my Discord book club. We read the first book in the series, and this is the second book. This is a dystopian genre, and this is the second book in the series Arc of a Scythe, and it's called Thunderhead, and the author is Neil Shusterman. So I had read Scythe, I believe I read that in November, and I didn't want too much longer time period to lapse before I continued the series, so it made my January TBR list. And then the fourth book that is on my January TBR list, that is a physical book that I am going to read, and it does not have a dust jacket because the dust jacket was ripped and torn, and I finally just took it off. I found this book at a thrift store, but this is a classic that we are reading in my personal Facebook group called Angie's Adventures. Our online book club chose a classic this month, and we chose Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. And I just started this one on Saturday. I think I read just a couple of chapters of it, and then I picked it back up again today. and started it. So I'm currently reading this. I read this in high school. I am 59 years old. So it has been at least 40 years since I've read this book. So we're reading it for a book club. So it's on the list. And then at the same time I'm reading a physical book, I like to read, or I like to listen to an audio book that helps me increase my number of books read. And so I was going through trying to choose one to start, and I actually found one that I'm listening to on audiobook, but that I actually have the hard copy book for as well. And so that just kind of moved it up to the January TBR list. And so this is a historical fiction, and it's called Midnight at the Blackbird Cafe by Heather Weber. And even though I have the physical book, I'm actually listening to it on audiobook, and I just started it a few days ago. So that is my January TBR. If I get through these, today is the 8th, I've already finished one. I am listening to the audiobook, and I'm physically reading Pride and Prejudice. I wanted to make sure I got that one knocked out for my book club. That is a must read. And then I'll have 2 more, and they're paperbacks, but they're not huge, but they're not skinny paperbacks. The James Patterson book is 481 pages, and the Thunderhead book is 504. So they're not skinny books. So if I get through those 2, then I will add another to my TBR list. But for right now, it's a total of 5. I have a dystopian, I have a mystery, I had a nonfiction, a classic, and a historical fiction. So 5 different genres for the month of January. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. What are you guys reading for the month of January? Have a good day.